manager, and in typical fashion, I'm just going to give a brief summary of tonight's meeting before we begin, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching at home. So tonight is a workshop session of the board, and the board will take into consideration of a number of items, including beginning with a presentation of donations to Lower Paxton Township's first responders by the VFW Post 148. Next, the board will consider taking action on resolutions 2118-08 and 21-18-09, which are to endorse and authorize the submission of additional Dauphin County local share gaming grant applications. Next, the board will consider action on resolution 21-12, approving the Meadows Car Wash sewer planning module. That has actually been taken off the agenda this evening, and Mr. Henry will mention that. Next, the board will hear a presentation on Ordinance 21-04, which is to adopt special events rules and regulations. After this, the board will consider the proposal for additional services related to the Heroes Grove Phase 3 construction project. Before discussing the 2021 trick-or-treat activities, and then heading into subdivision and land development action. After that, the board will take action on the payment of bills for the township and authority before getting to adjournment and announcements. And a very lengthy workshop session, which we're not used to, but and with all that said, the members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. We'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand, and Supervisor Zumas will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now move to approval of minutes from the Board of Supervisors business meeting of June 12th, 2021, June 1st, 2021. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the June 1st, 2021 business meeting.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
This is a time set aside for public comment. Public comment is for items that are not on the agenda this evening. If you are here to speak to an item on the agenda, we'll have public comment on that at that particular time. So would anybody like to address the board on an item not on the agenda, please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Janice Roberts Page. I live at 5023 Royal Avenue. That's in Harrisburg, 17109, right around the corner.
Oh, sure.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak before the Board of Supervisors. My husband, Eric, could not be here this evening because he's currently working. Last week, we forwarded to the supervisors correspondence that we had with Mr. Randy Allen, engineering field technician. Mr. Allen included in his correspondence with me Amanda Zerby from the Lower Paxton Township, Chris Fagan from HRG Incorporated, and Nima Hayes from Dauphin County back in April of this year. Eric and I sent correspondence with YouTube video attachments and picture attachments on April the 12th, April 22nd, April 27th, May 4th, and May 11th that demonstrated mud and debris runoff onto our property. We've lived there since 2017, and we never had that issue until the builder began building in August of 2020. The footage also demonstrated multiple breaches on multiple occasions from 2020 and 2021 to the silt fencing, which changed the original grading on our property. A meeting was scheduled by Randy with Dauphin County Conservation District to discuss the concerns. Randy indicated the person was a no-show when we met in April, and he would reschedule the meeting. We never heard back from him, and no response was given to our May 4th or May 11th correspondence. I stopped by the township office in late May and was informed by him there was nothing more the township could do because the builder followed the plans that were submitted. This was reiterated today when I received a telephone call from Mr. Weaver, whom had me on speakerphone, and I talked with him and Mr. Allen. There are multiple purposes for me coming before the township today. I wanted to gain an understanding of why a builder would file plans with the township and what is the purpose. I don't have a clear understanding of why those things happen, but on the call, I prepared this in advance, so I didn't know Mr. Weaver was going to contact me and share with me some of this information, and he did. I wanted to know if there was an ordinance, a law, a regulation, or some type of legal requirement that a resident can review that explains the purpose and requirements. If so, could someone direct us to that so we knew where to read and educate ourselves on that subject? Today, during a call with both of them, they shared with me where I could locate the information on the Lower Paxton website under E-Code 360. I appreciate their assistance in educating me on this information, so I just wanted to say that. And also during the call, it was mentioned the plans were filed in 2010, and the website ordinance had a newer ordinance on there. So we never got to the part of where the old ordinance was in effect in 2010, where that was located and where I could get a copy of that, because the plans were submitted in 2010. If that information could be forwarded to us, I would greatly appreciate it. Additional information was provided for a possible solution to the runoff water issue, in which the issue could be addressed by having the downspout or roof drains be rerouted into the authority stormwater system at the inlet on Royal Avenue. Mr. Weaver indicated this typically is non-permissible, but can be approved on a case-by-case basis. I believe he indicated during our conversation that it would most likely be approved given the situation, based on the video footage and everything that they could see. He also indicated he would contact the builder, McNaughton, to advise of this option and would provide us alternate contact information with the builder, because at one given point in time, we were in contact with the builder, with a gentleman, which I won't name at this time. It's not relevant anymore. But I asked, could we have an alternate person that we could talk to about this to address it? Because this, to me, was very overwhelming and scary. Last summer, we had an issue, and like I said, we bought the property in 2010. We already had an issue with our central air unit, in which the unit failed. We had to have that completely replaced along with the piping. And the flooding that's occurring is actually touching the bottom of our central air unit now. So we're concerned that now it will invalidate our warranty by getting flooded, and then we would have to pay additional monies to have it replaced again. So I would also like to recommend that the supervisors consider looking into changing the law regarding stormwater runoff, because it was explained to me that basically what is happening with us is not necessarily the responsibility of the township. So I would encourage you to look into this issue that we are having and see if there's a way that the ordinance or the law or whatever is applicable to stormwater gets addressed, so that people like myself who are dealing with flooding issues that have a property that's up on a hill that has been built won't have similar issues of the water running off into their property in the future. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And if we can get the information that I requested, I would greatly appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Steve, do you want to just address the lady had asked what the approval processes were, et cetera? I guess you're going back to 2010 now when this was done?
That would have been the stormwater management ordinance at that time.
Okay.
It would have had probably pretty much the same procedure that is done now, where the person comes in and applies for a stormwater management permit, and then when the township then reviews the plan, the staff reviews it, and they'll either approve it or have comments. to make changes. And then once that's approved, then the stormwater management permit gets issued, and the contractor then is supposed to follow that permit and build it accordingly.
So if there are subsequent problems, is there any provision for a remedy? Or
Well, there are enforcement provisions in the ordinance. I don't recall exactly, I don't work with that ordinance very much. I don't recall exactly what they are, but there are enforcement provisions if it's not functioning properly.
Okay. But you had spoken with Mr. Weaver, and he was going to take up consideration of some remedial measures? Okay. No, if you would provide it to Mr. Gottschall, he will share it with us. We at this point, our main concern is if you're talking with Mr. Weaver and he's working on a potential remedy, we want to be kept aware of the status of that as it proceeds.
To get in contact with the builder and see if the builder would change the spouting so
Into a storm drain. Okay. Because it cannot go into the sanitary sewer drain, but it's storm drain. But we do have a storm water we do have a stormwater program here now. So if you could just forward that documentation to Brad, we'll have Mr. Gottschall here. We will follow up on that and see what potential options. We cannot change laws, and all of this is governed by the laws of the Commonwealth, so that we cannot do, but what we can do is look to a potential remedy. So we will work with you on that. Okay. And just a word of advice, if you have an external air conditioner unit and water is rising up to that air conditioner unit, turn it off. I had that happen at my residence about 10 years ago where we had a major sort of microburst, and the water came up over the external air conditioner unit, which drew all the water into our basement and flooded the entire basement. So if you see storm water rising, turn off your air conditioner unit so you don't get flooded. 'Cause I can tell you that was a major, major pain. But that is a problem. Yes, Mr. Gottschall's email address. Well, he'll give you a card. And then, Brad, please keep us posted in our items of interest as to what's happening here. But thank you for being here. Would anybody else like to address the board on an item not on? Yes. Could you come back up so that people? We have a television audience, and they can't hear you if you speak from back there.
I apologize. The one thing that I didn't share with you regarding the flooding was so massive that I had a stream running across my patio from this water running off, and it's cracked my patio subsequently by all of this happening. So I did want to share that one piece of information with you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else like to address the board under public comment? Yes, ma'am. Could you come to the podium, please? If you'd give us your name and address, ma'am.
My name is Monica Powell, and I live at 5025 Royal Avenue. And what I'm not sure about is when you are about to build a construction or make changes, structural changes, it has to be approved by the township, who has engineers and other people that are familiar with what needs to be done. And so my question is, before they began to build, it was flat. When they built this new construction, they had to add dirt to make it high. And so, which I believe had to be approved by the township. And so if the township approves something that is causing flooding on the property next door, we're not asking to change the law, but wouldn't that be the responsibility of whoever approved the plans?
So long as the plan was approved consistent with existing law.
Doesn't the law protect people who have properties?
It does, theoretically. The problem is all this is set in various codes, and Mr. Stein can tell you exactly which ones. I'm not an attorney. But in terms of what the township, we don't have total discretion in what we approve. What our staff does is they have the plans, and they then look at the applicable laws of the Commonwealth and all the rules and regulations that are related to it. And if what the developer is proposing to do meets those rules, regulations, and laws, at that point, we have to give approval.
You're not concerned about whether or not what's being approved may cause harm to an existing property owner?
We can be concerned, but we can't violate state law.
It's not violating, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
who looks out for the taxpayer? Myself.
Theoretically, the law is written in a way that the reason why the developer has to jump through all these hoops is to make sure that they don't impact surrounding properties.
Right, and they
the
have
fact that-
qualified people doing that, right?
Right.
So why are we now having flooding?
If I can take this real quick. So, well, first off, I'll give you my card and we can talk about it further so that we don't have to, thank you. And, but an example would be, when a builder or developer goes to develop, they have to do, a lot of planning for stormwater management, for the runoff and all those things, which could be, so that's when you drive through a neighborhood and you can see a lot of it, a swale, you can see, a pond, well, we don't do ponds, but, retention basins, water gardens, all of those things that allow the water to seep in kind of slowly. But what happens sometimes, just going to be honest, because I think it's happened to several people that I know of, is when the developer or the excavator who dug the hole for the foundation, when they go and they grade that back out, sometimes if they don't grade it appropriately, there might be absolutely perfect, planning for stormwater management, but if the grading is off, you might end up flooding your own basement, or if somebody adds a patio, that's why we have permits and a lot of other stuff, and somebody comes out and takes a look, because if you have some guy come and do it on the weekend and he doesn't grade it appropriately, or she, it's gonna, it will flood your neighbors or it will flood back into your property. So we're totally aware of that, but I think what they're saying, what the staff is saying, from what it sounds like, is that all of those measures were taken. But is there something else? It seems like that has to be, it would be the builder. And it sounds like that's what but I want to hear more about it, so why don't you just call me? That's my cell phone. And then
Just
we
one
can
last
talk
question.
further.
So if it's not graded properly, wouldn't that be out of code?
Well, that's not a code. Well, I'll give that to our solicitor, but
The grading part isn't necessarily a code issue.
yeah. So that's the thing.
Causes flooding would be a code issue? or
Well, it's not a code issue because it's they've followed the plan, but the grade might be off. So it's more of a technical issue, I would say, where they're off by, however they graded it was off. And what would happen in that circumstance would be, because I've had this happen before, is you go back to the builder and say, hey, look, I'm getting water that's pooling in my backyard, or, I can see it pooling down here, and it wasn't doing that before. And they've got to come back out and they have to, maybe put some topsoil, put some stuff down. They have to take measures to regrade that. So that's what that is. So, but yeah, just call me and we'll work through that individually. But yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I would like to announce that prior to this board meeting, the board met in executive session to consider some personnel issues, and we'll be doing so following the meeting. We now want to move to presentation of donations to South Central EMS, the Lower Paxton Township Police Department, and Lower Paxton Township Fire Companies. These donations being given by VFW Post 148. And who on behalf, Bill, if you would come to the podium and give us your name and address, and maybe tell us, first of all, a little bit about this donation process and how you do it, and I think we know why, but how you brought it about and the good work the VFW has done.
My name is William Shellhammer. I'm the commander of Post 148, and I live in Hummelstown at 306 Thrush Drive. And the reason we do these donations is we have public service that we recognize for their help in the community and around the area. So we have elected to donate several checks, one to Lingelstown Fire Company, another one for South Central EMS, another to the Colonial Park Fire Company, another to Lower Paxton Police, and Paxton Township Fire Company. This is to aid all of these divisions in helping them finance their obligations, and this is the part. And by the way, every one of the checks are made out for $500.
Oh, wonderful.
And we thank you for.
Thank you.
Would you like the representatives of the various entities to come up and receive their check?
Sure.
Okay. If you would call them off one by one.
Paxton Fire Company.
Paxtonia Fire Company.
Thank you for your service. Thank you, sir. Lingelstown Fire Company. Thank you for your services.
Thank you, sir. We got to smile for the camera, or else I'll
Okay.
smile for the camera. I know this works.
I'm not pictorial.
Bill has done this before.
South Central EMS. Thank you, sir. We have to smile again. I'm going to break it pretty soon. Colonial Park Fire Company. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And the Lower Paxton Police Department. Now I'm dealing with the cops. So if I get out of here in a hurry, you'll know why. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I thank you. One comment I would like to make is I have been partially involved in a lot of these organizations, fire company, fire police, and it's dear to my heart that we do this. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Bill.
continue the good work, everyone.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Shellhammer.
Thank you.
Thank you and the VFW for your support of these very fine organizations.
Yep, very nice.
Speaking of fine organizations, we need to take action on resolutions 21-18-08 and 21-1809, endorsing and authorizing the submission of additional Dauphin County local share grant applications, of which I believe there are two.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, these are in addition to the resolutions that were adopted by the board at your July 20th business meeting. These two township-oriented organizations are seeking your resolution to endorse and authorize the submission of the grant applications. We also have with us this evening Christine Hunter to briefly present on her resolution request for the Heroes Grove Phase 3 project. And if the board would entertain that presentation before
Yes, sir.
we take action on that.
Yes. Always good to see Christine. I see Vince is back there too, so. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Oh,
Bill.
absolutely.
Thank
you,
you.
Bill.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the time this evening. I'll give you a brief update on Heroes Grove. We just completed construction of Phase 2 this spring, which was the addition of a roof and some additional improvements, which really just improved the functionality of the amphitheater. So that Phase 2 is complete. We are now we have been working on Phase 3, raising the funds and working on construction drawings for that. We still need additional funds in order to build that facility. But as Heroes Grove is being used more and more, I understand that there have been some concerts with some significant crowds this spring. And then it sounds as though some other entities, it is a public entity that can be rented and reserved by really anyone. Some of the private events that I understand were held there this year was someone had a memorial service there, and that a church had a concert there in addition to the township activities, and of course the July 4th weekend celebration that Heroes Fund Inc. sponsored and provided. So use of the facility is growing, and the lack that we still have is accessible restrooms. There are restrooms in the park, but there are cross ball fields at a distance and without a paved trail to them. So we really are looking to move forward with Phase 3, which is the construction of a restroom building, which will also have a concession room in it. And as you know, the entire facility has been built without any funds from the township itself. It is a county facility. Heroes Fund Inc. has obtained grants in order to fund the facility, and so that's what we're doing again with Phase 3. We have about half the funds that we need for that, so we're going again to the county for a local share municipal grant, their gaming grants, and that's the resolution that you have before you. So we appreciate your support, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Christine, just a quick comment. The facility was used Thursday night by our Historical Commission for an outstanding presentation, and it's scheduled to be used for a Boy Scout presentation Sunday, I believe it is, this coming Sunday. So you're right, the activity's starting to pick up. And Vince, just so you know, the new sound system was put into effect Thursday night. It was outstanding, it was loud, it was clear, and very, very welcomed.
Good.
Very good.
Great.
Any board member questions for Christine?
I have a question on the other one, not this.
Okay. I think we're all very familiar with the Heroes Grove project.
So I appreciate your patience with us.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
And then we have a representative of Colonial Park United Methodist Church here. We do not have
Can we clarify, is it Colonial Park United Methodist Church or Colonial Park United Church of Christ?
Colonial Park United Methodist Church is what it says.
It's the Colonial Park United Church of Christ. The Methodist Church is just the file name.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we got the right church.
correct. We got the right. The resolution indicates the right church.
Okay, that was a file.
Who is the applicant?
The United
Church of
Church of Christ.
That's just an old file name? or
That's
something?
that's just an
Okay.
old file. I don't. That's just just the name
Yeah,
of the
don't worry
internal
about the
file
file.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I questioned that too, because it is two different churches, so that file really should be changed, because Colonial Park United Methodist is now Cross Point. That's at one end of Devonshire, and United Church of Christ is at the other. So we really should change that
Right, the
file.
resolution itself, though, is correct.
Correct. And the just point of clarification, the actual agenda item does not indicate the church name. It's just, again, just the technical file name that is wrong, but
Okay.
Okay. In which case, are there any additional questions?
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion, sir?
That we approve resolutions 21-1808 and 21-1809 endorsing and authorizing the submission of additional Dauphin County local share grant applications, specifically Brightwell Park, Dauphin County Heroes Grove Phase 3 for $75,000, and Colonial Park United Church of Christ for security cameras, $20,000.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. We are going to delay item number 8. There's some paperwork that is still needed, so that'll be coming up at a different time. Let's move to first presentation of Ordinance 21-04, adopting special event rules and regulations. Mr. Gottschall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ordinance 21-04 was the result of months and quite frankly years of some confusion related to how special events are performed throughout the township, specifically when speaking about private events that occur. We're talking things like block parties that residential neighborhoods may have, or we're talking some large marathons that may occur, whether they are township sponsored or sponsored by some other private organization or nonprofit organization. The confusion came as a result of members of the public not knowing exactly specifically who to reach at the township for a given event. Members of the public would call in to the township, they would call into the police department, they would call to the public works department, parks and rec department. They would bounce around like, ping pong balls trying to get to their the appropriate destination, and at times, various departments may not even know who the appropriate person is to guide the person to. So it's become very difficult to assist residents in dealing with their special events that they may seek to plan. So that's issue number one. Most of concern, however, with regard to special events, when they do occur, is the situation surrounding public safety. And so township staff has put together this ordinance with really two goals in mind, but one primary goal in mind is to drive the importance of public safety. If there is a large event which would bring hundreds of individuals into the township and may impede in some way traffic flow, whether that be vehicular or pedestrian, the township should know about that event in order to appropriately provide public services such as police, the Parks and Rec Department knowing about it in order to keep the park clean, Public Works the same way, also in dealing with how we handle our traffic. Again, Public Works needs to be involved in making sure that certain safety requirements are met. So a number of township departments are involved in these special events, and this process through this ordinance would allow us to have a single point of contact, which would be the township manager's office, which would receive all special events applications, and then my office would distribute that application to all departments who would be involved, and the departments would then provide me with their comments, what's needed from their particular perspectives, and then we would go ahead and work with the sponsoring organization to issue them a special events permit, and then from there provide the appropriate township service. So it's a streamlining opportunity and also, again, a public safety opportunity.
And Brad, I know the intention is not to reduce the number of events that can be held in the township. Do we anticipate that happening as a matter of practicality? I know that wasn't the intention.
No, no, I don't see that occurring at all.
Okay, and there are special event fees which largely cover when the township has to put out money. Will there be events that are going to be hit with a fee that previously weren't? Do you anticipate that?
Yeah, so again, this the way I like to talk to staff about this new procedure, and there has been, it'll be a learning curve in terms of implementing this new procedure for both the township staff and members of the public. It'll take some time to get people on the same page, but we have to look at this ordinance as a matter of public safety again, and so in order to continue to provide township service at a high level for these special events, yes, certain events may be implicated with new fees that they may have not ever seen before, but they are fees associated with the service itself. And so in the past, we were, for various applications, charging the organization just an application fee to cover various administrative costs, and they weren't being charged the fee to provide the service. So now, if we have a huge, let's just say there's a huge event scheduled for the weekend, which we anticipate to draw hundreds, maybe thousands of individuals, and as a result, Public Works Department needs to come out to set up barriers. The police department has to assign an overtime officer. We're talking, township money going to adequately administer a privately run organizational event.
Right.
So, with this system, the township fees would be covered on providing those services, which otherwise would not have been scheduled. So yes, an organization may be required to pay fees that they may not have before, but that will be communicated ahead of time. As I tried to make very clear in the ordinance, the township will, give them kind of like a quote, hey, you're looking to do this event. Here's what some anticipated costs
It'll all be
may
there, streamlined, everybody knows going in, and the wording does say for special event fees, if it requires large scale. So we're not going to nickel and dime. It's for big things. Okay.
Yes.
That's
And this is and again, this process, by giving township staff the appropriate amount of time to plan, we would have in the past organizations come to us and say, hey, we're looking to do a block party tomorrow.
Right.
Can you give us a few traffic calming devices? And the Public Works Department would have to go out on the weekend and just do that. But now, if we know a month ahead of time, we can maybe schedule Public Works crew to do that outside the bounds of overtime.
Right.
And it wouldn't cost anything. So
I got you. Thank you.
Brad, I've brought this up before, and I think we need to take a closer look at the fee process, the money involved. I know that a $50 permit fee for a ice cream truck that's going to a facility that pours rain and they don't even make enough money to cover the $50 fee. That's an example. How does this affect churches, firehouse, VFWs, American Legions, with their barbecues, bake sales? I mean, they're nonprofits. They don't, it's all about making money, not spending money on permits. Plus the fact that if there's something going on a routine basis, I'd like to see an application done on a yearly basis rather than each time they're going to do it. So that it cuts down on the administration that the people having the event have to deal with.
yeah, so to speak to the kind of the concept of nickel and diming, if you will, charging somebody something every time, or charging an application fee for an event that may not even bring much money. That's the exact intent of moving away from that and moving towards this system, because our intent never has really been and never should be to levy fees to make money. That's not the intent. The intent was always to cover township services. So again, if now moving away from just a purely administrative application fee to charging more for service, that will hopefully, with most of these events, nix that financial burden. So again, the more planning the township can do to mitigate any public safety risk in the future, again, a month out, we can then plan and schedule our people accordingly to do that while not costing the organization, money.
So when and how is that determined? I mean, if the American Legion wants to have a chicken barbecue on a Saturday morning, what township assets are needed in order to make that happen?
Well, that will be a determination made by each of the departments. So again, it's the onus is going to be on the applicant to tell us exactly what their event is going to look like. How many, I know it's hard to say exactly, but, give us an approximate number of people that are, likely to show up at this event. If we're expecting 2,000 people to show up, then the police department, the public safety director may say, hey, that's going to require an officer to attend to that event for public safety reasons. Then, it may cost that organization money to cover that. But if, again, they, anticipate 50 people coming in and out, the intent is to recoup township service cost, not to just charge because we're reviewing an application. So it's all going to depend on the event, really.
So Brad, I have a question. So your American Legion is having a barbecue in their parking lot, okay? So in order for them to have that, you're saying now they have to come to the township?
Within their own parking lot?
Yes.
No.
Yeah,
So, any event that's held on private property, this only speaks to public roads, publicly owned facilities, parks, roads, things like that.
So you're talking about, like we had talked a while ago about the like the neighborhood block parties,
Yes.
which you brought up. So if somebody has to shut down a road, and that was my issue where I knew somebody that they couldn't get a hold of anybody, and that's kind of, I think, where this came about. You're saying that situation where we own the street, we have to have somebody, a police officer come or somebody and put up barricades to block somebody from plowing through this block party, that's when we'll assume the fees.
Yes, exactly,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So how about, a lot of your neighborhoods are having food trucks that are on township roads. Do they have to come for an application to park the food truck there for 2 hours? Because they
No.
don't need any police or nothing from the Public Works or anything. I think it's a little confusing on what,
Yeah, unless it's something that specifically would impede the flow of traffic. So if the food truck is parked in essentially a parking spot, I think that's covered by the vehicle code,
Okay.
and that's allowed.
Okay.
Essentially, if you can think about it, I guess by right.
so it's more, if I'm understanding this right, it's more if you need to have a township service for the
Correct.
event that you're having, that you need to apply for the application.
It's a good way to
Okay.
think about it, yeah.
Not to belabor this, but real quickly, a block party, if police just come up and put barricades, or somebody comes up, puts barricades and leaves, we're not going to bill them.
Well, if I may, I did a block party in our neighborhood, okay? And unfortunately, the roads aren't turned over yet. So the HOA approved it, so then Public Works, on Public Works time, which was during the day, they dropped off the 4 roadblocks, and then we put them up, we took them down, put them back in front of my house. They picked them up Monday morning on Public Works time from 6 to 2:30.
Right, but this is large-scale mobilization. That's what the policy says. So that would not, I don't think we would charge for that.
No, again, unless the event is anticipating 1,000 people, or I say 1,000 people, that's just a number out of air, but that, or again, there's some other.
Just talking about an average block party. I didn't want people hearing to say, we're going to charge them for
No,
putting up
but-
barricades and taking down barricades.
Especially if we're not invited.
Well, and they don't put them up, they just drop them off, Chris, and you're responsible to put them
Okay.
up. You take them down, and then they'll come back and pick them up like Monday, whenever, so.
However, they'll still be required to fill out an application.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because you have
absolutely.
to ask, yeah,
Right.
because it's a
Okay,
public road.
I'm good.
But as far as the fee, right.
Yeah, because it's a
And
public
then Robin
road.
will come out and put up and take down your barricades? That's what I'm hearing here?
Hey, don't laugh, next year those roads will be plowing them.
I hope so. Any other questions for Brad on this subject? Any public question or comment? Mr. Yes, Bill.
My name is Bill Minsker, 5956 Lingelstown Road rear in Lingelstown. I have two items I'd like you to think about. The first of these is knowledge. The second one is the fee. 2 years ago, Lower Paxton Township Lions Club introduced an idea that we would create on the township website a list for the year of events that are scheduled throughout the township. The primary concern at that time was the conflict that occurs in joint scheduling. In the next 2 weeks, there are going to be chicken barbecues on Saturdays. On one of the Saturdays will be the fire company and the Legion. The fire company and the church in Lingelstown. The next weekend will be the Lions Club and the Legion. And this happens because there's unaware knowledge of what each organization is doing. So in reference to the knowledge part of this, just being aware, I'd like to make you aware again of that proposal that the Lower Paxton Township Lions Club had offered to create this kind of a situation and operate it for the township on the website. And I don't know that that has ever gone anywhere.
Well, does that mean that people have to submit their things to two people now, or they send it to you? And
Well,
send
we
it to-
would solicit from organizations, churches, whomever, a list of their yearly activities, and we would maintain through the township that information on the website. So anyone could look anytime to see what's already scheduled, plus the public could look to see what's coming up, just for common knowledge.
So, Bill,
in reference,
the more barbecues, the shorter the lines, right?
well, yes, but that's not the idea of having the barbecue.
Are you trying to keep
Yeah.
more than one barbecue happening on that different ends of the township and things like
Different ends of the village.
Oh.
Lingelstown Fire Company, St. Thomas UCC.
So
Lower
your
Paxton
goal would-
Lions Club at Swartz Supply and the American
that?
Legion.
Are you just talking Lingelstown, or you're talking the whole township?
Well, but this happens elsewhere too. I'm just aware in the next 2 weekends of these 4 chicken barbecues happening in 2 weekends.
So your goal would be that there'd be like only one chicken barbecue each weekend if the groups could voluntarily schedule it that way.
Hopefully, they wouldn't schedule on top of each other
What they always say,
because nobody benefits from that.
they always say that they run out. So if they run out, you can go to the next one.
You know.
Well, but we don't always run out.
But Bill has
So
a good
that's-
point. We could get chicken dinners 4 weeks in a row rather than 2 under his plan.
Well, what's Leanne have to say about that?
Leanne?
If you recall, we sat down and met about this when you proposed it to the board 2 years ago. And the issue becomes that the UCC or whoever the church is does not submit their information to the township. So while we might have Lingelstown Fire's information, we do not have everybody else's. It became a challenge for me to continually reach out to every one of these institutions and ask for the information. There is a place on the website that people can submit their events. I approve them, and just as they've inputted them in, they can be approved and placed on the website. So that is a possibility. I didn't think that it should be my homework to solicit those events on a regular basis because there's far more important things we have to do. However, that is something that is doable on the website currently as it exists.
What I'm hearing from Mr. Minsker is that the Lions Club would be willing to do that.
Exactly, and this would be a
Work and to find the
calendar, not
information.
the notices that we appear, which I've been contributing to Leanne. I'm not pointing any fingers at Leanne, she does a great job. I'm just saying that 2 years ago, the Lions Club offered to do this for the township, that we would solicit this information and we would submit this information for keeping a year-long record of what's going on in the township, much like a calendar, not the individual articles that we're doing now, which of course is that's fine, but this would be a full calendar for the year. And as organizations are planning their events, they could look to see what's already scheduled at a particular time and schedule around it if they wanted to do that.
The Lions
So
Club
my
can totally
point
do
was,
that.
that's my first point about information.
Okay,
That this-
let Leanne respond to
What you're saying can currently be done. If you wanted to log on as yourself, log on as the Lions Club, you could submit every one of those events through our website currently.
But I think Bill's saying he will,
Doing that.
the Lions Club will actively solicit?
We would solicit from organizations. We would find a contact person for each organization and periodically be in contact with those people to obtain whatever.
So Leanne
activities
doesn't
they
have to
would
do
organize.
anything.
Well, somebody would have to enter this into the website,
So
but
what
not
I'm-
solicit the material. We would do that. We would have a committee that would be responsible for that as a community service.
And you as a committee have the ability to actually go onto our website, submit the event, and all I do is hit approve, and it gets added to the calendar. And that's been available since the implementation of the new website.
Right, and I've been doing that. I just recently submitted
You
a
submitted
number
things
in
to the
new-
newsletter via
in the
email.
newsletter.
I'm suggesting that you go on the website itself directly, submit your event, then I truly have to do nothing. I just hit approve, and your event is added. It's much easier.
Does it go in a calendar, Leanne?
Yep, everything
That's
that
what you were
anybody
talking
could.
about.
You could submit any event.
That would be great, because I don't want to give, that's quite an
Why
administrative.
don't we let the two of you work that out in a side
Right.
conversation?
Maybe
Do
we
you have
could
a second
start-
point?
And working all this together, that was my first point about information, that the township has knowledge of what's going on within the township. The second item, I was concerned about fees. Not chicken barbecues, not soup sales, but big community events. For example, the Memorial Day Parade by the Legion, that's a big, huge community event. In connection to that is the Linglestown Area Civic Association Mile Run that raises funding for Heroes Grove. We have the July 4th activity, which I think is the biggest event we have in the township, bringing thousands of people into the Linglestown Coons Park area for the fireworks. Later on, we have, not in any particular order, we have now the Christmas mart that's going to occur. We have the Taste of Linglestown that will come back again. There are big events like this that involve a big area and also lots of people. To my knowledge, most, if not all of those events have very little funding that's necessary that would be provided to the township. So if there's going to be a fee charged for this, I would ask that there be consideration that this is not a profit-making type of an activity, that the fees would be kept low. Thank you.
Well, the manager said it won't be that, but we do need to know if this is what I asked coming out of the gate, are there events that currently don't have a large outlay for these things that are going to be billed, that aren't currently billed? And these are the big items that Mr. Minsker mentioned.
But there's a difference between a township-sponsored event and a private-sponsored event.
Right.
These are all private.
I mean, and
Fourth of
and
July,
this,
we're
Fireworks isn't, that's
co-sponsor of
half
the
and half.
fireworks.
Well, the township contributes toward the cost.
Yeah.
It's run through the fire
Department,
company.
Yes.
frankly, this is a policy decision that has to be made by the board in terms of, who are there organizations out there that that you necessarily don't want to be paying certain fees, or because frankly, just as you mentioned the list, Mr. Minsker, events such as Taste of Linglestown or some of the others that you just mentioned.
Christmas tree lighting,
Christmas
the
tree-
first Sunday in December.
Yeah, Christmas. I mean, frankly, they are events that would be charged under this scenario because now taking a look at that, there should be police presence there, and there should be public safety or public works involvement in terms of setting up appropriate traffic mitigation efforts and things like that. But again, we would try as much as we could to do that in a way that would not cost additional funds, such as bringing public works out on the weekend but yeah, I mean, frankly, there will be charges that have not been levied
But
before.
don't the fire police work a lot of that stuff, Bill?
And this is where we normally take care of that.
That's
Another item, which you're probably unaware of yet, in the beginning of June this coming year, Paxtonia and Lincolnstown Fire Companies probably will be sponsoring the County Firemen's Association Convention.
all
And
right.
that's a 2-day event with a big parade and so forth. So these are events that they have costs involved, but not costs that have already in the past gone to the township. So if there are fees for these, my concern is that the fees would be kept low. This is a nonprofit type activity that's being done, and if the fees are too high, it's going to be a handicap. Thank you.
Really, are we spending that much money providing these services to, like, all the events that Bill just mentioned are all really community events? And are we really spending that much money on police, et cetera, and public works that we need to be charging for that? Or is that something that we pay taxes for and that should be considered a service?
Well, I know that's been one of the major issues that we have, and not to speak, I mean, some of those larger events we certainly know about, but
Right.
a lot of these events we don't know about, and, Parks and Rec or the police or whatever will find out about the event after it had already occurred. And, Parks will come up and say, hey, there was this big, whatever, basketball tournament, and it drew 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew about it. And there were no township police there or whatever. And that's the issue. But with these events that Mr. Minsker mentioned, I'm not sure. I don't know that I've never actually done an analysis on what we have been spending or.
If this is only the first read, I think we can take a little time to crunch the numbers and say, all right, this is what this event would cost them this amount of money, because right now we have no idea. This is a good idea. We're going to pass something. The unintended consequences, and then maybe we do it to where for these big township things where really you expect the township tax, you expect it. Maybe then we put in there that if the township is a sponsor or one of the sponsors, it doesn't apply. There might be easy enough, because we probably can't do it on a case-by-case basis. That may not be the way to go. But if I would feel better if we knew who's going to be hit with how much ballpark and just unintended consequences. But we do have to pass something.
I wouldn't want to be charging, the Legion for putting on a Memorial Day parade. That doesn't seem right. The Chris Kindle's Mart, there's going to be some road closures, et cetera, but that's raising money for a community foundation for community nonprofits. So if we take money from them, that's less money that they have to give to nonprofits, which is what they're trying to do. So, I think even if there were a big basketball tournament, now to the degree that we can get people to let us know in advance so that we can plan and do it during the regular order of business. But I'd really be interested in knowing, what are we actually spending on events like that? Are we talking about a couple $1,000? Are we talking about $10,000 a year? Are we talking $20,000 a year? I mean, if it's a de minimis amount of money, then we may not want to charge for that. But we do want to know in advance. Or you have some sort of very small permit fee, like $25 or whatever, so that we know that it's going on. So, but I see where you're going with this, and there's a lot of benefits to it. I'm just concerned that we don't take money out of the pockets of groups that are doing really community service things.
One of the things that we did in Indiana, where this was, I kind of modeled this after in terms of the language, some of it, but was there were certain organizations that typically dealt with the borough and had a number of annual events. And the council decided to give those organizations, like like tokens, like 3 tokens each, and the organization would decide which free token to use on any event they wanted to get a free event. So that was kind of a way to help out a little bit, but still cover
Some of the
township or borough.
or make a delineation between an event sponsored by a nonprofit organization and one sponsored by a for-profit organization.
Yeah, that would probably be most of them.
That would,
I don't know how
it'd
many
probably be
for-profit-
most of the events that occur, but assuming there would not be a legal barrier to making that differentiation.
I guess first thing, let's get an idea of what kind of money we're talking about. But we got to do something. We will.
Yes, we do.
We want to know the impact.
No.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good discussion, folks. Thank you. Our Heroes Grove folks have been hanging around through all of this because we have another item. We have a proposal for additional services related to Heroes Grove Phase 3 construction project. So we probably should have just taken both of these at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have put them
Okay.
together.
Christine, sorry to hold you here through that discussion. Of course, now Heroes Grove will know whether or not we have to pay for any special event that we hold.
Right, it's important
Although at
information.
Heroes Grove, we don't really
That's a
have to.
county organization.
That's true. That's a county. Oh, good. We can charge the county. Good luck.
Good luck. So you have a proposal before you for some additional fees for our firm for the Phase 3 construction documents. When we originally prepared our proposal, we were not aware that the township is under a consent decree for sanitary sewer. So this restroom has very small flows, but DEP has determined that we need to do this sewage planning module, which is really a lot of paperwork. You know, there was another one on the agenda tonight. So at any rate, we're just asking for the fees to cover our costs to do that. That's included, as I'm developing these cost estimates for grant applications, these additional fees I've included in that. So it would actually be paid for through the grants, part of the total project. But
Okay.
the township, as the owner of the land, then is the one that contracts with us for the services.
Do we know what the fee is?
Six or
Yes,
8,000.
6,000.
Wow.
6,000?
Just for a planning module.
Thank you, DEP.
Thank you, DEP. Yeah.
Yeah. I did try. And they
Well, you know
said
what
we need
DEP
to
stands for, Norm?
I'm afraid to ask.
Deny every permit. So, sorry. That bureaucratic, I'd say humor, but nobody laughed. So,
Vinny snickered.
Vinny did. I like Vinny. We love Vinny. So, okay. Any questions about this? So the money will come out of the grant in the end, but we have to give our formal approval to it.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal for additional services Heroes Grove Phase 3 construction project in the amount of $6,000.
Well, you said 6 to 8?
No, 6.
It says 6.
The flat
It says
6? Okay.
Flat 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's what it said here. so.
Okay. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. There we go.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Okay, now we will go to 2021 trick or treat activities. I guess we've been getting some questions as to whether we will be holding trick or treat on Halloween, trick or treat night, or some other night. Brad, I believe our current policy is that we hold trick or treat on Halloween, which is the 31st of October. So the question is, do we wish to continue that policy in effect, or do we wish to change the policy?
I know we said the 31st, but this year it's a Sunday. So, just
Okay.
making a comment.
I spoke to Director Kashiv about this.
We haven't done that in 2 years. Not in 2 years.
Yeah.
We switched it a few years ago.
We switched it several years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah.
I spoke to Director Kashiv about this today, and he had told me that the Chiefs of Police Association won't meet until September. However, he the discussion has been that now with Lower Paxton doing its own thing and a couple of others now doing that the association would probably recommend just to have the municipalities do their own trick-or-treat date. And he has no problem with it being on Halloween, October 31st.
On Sunday.
Correct.
I think it cuts down on confusion. Halloween is when you have trick or treat.
Right. Just like we have Christmas on Sunday.
Well, there's sort of a relationship between Christmas and Sunday, but that's
Not
all.
Halloween and Sunday.
I didn't hear any complaints. People came to us to put it on 31st. I think the prudent thing to do to keep it.
If we just leave it there, that's what we have been doing for the last couple of years, and rather than that, my concern is if we keep switching back and forth, we really confuse people. I know last year the concern was that it was on a Saturday. Would that cause additional chicanery that might run up our costs for police service? It apparently did not. I wouldn't think that having it on a Sunday would create any additional problems. Okay. Well, if there's no desire to move it, then we can move on to subdivision and land development. Improvement guarantees. Let's see. What do we have here? We have a number of...
Battery went dead.
Your battery went dead. Well, up on the screen are the improvement guarantees. Does anybody have any problems with any of those?
Pretty routine.
Pretty routine. Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the improvement guarantees?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the improvement guarantees. There are 7 of them listed on the screen.
Thank you, Mrs. Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Time now to move to the payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve payment of the bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Does the manager or any member of the board have any announcements?
I just have one. The Parks and Recreation will be sponsoring a concert on Friday night at Heroes Grove from 7 to 8:30.
Oh.
And I just want to commend everyone that was involved in National Night Out. Our fire company, our police department, and our staff did an outstanding job. Fortunately, the weather cooperated, which helped, but thank you all.
I bet you there was 1,000 people there.
I think there was more than that.
That's great.
It was crowded. Yeah.
Anybody else, announcements or comments? Okay, hearing none, the next meeting of this Board of Supervisors will be a business meeting to be held 1 week from tonight, Tuesday, August 17th at 7 p.m., right here in this room. Seeing no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, a second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.